Welcome to another episode of Down the Barrel Podcast with Jimmy and Dino.
And sometimes Jared.
Down the Barrel Podcast is brought to you by the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association
and Wolf.Report. Wolf.Report, a platform dedicated to elevating the voices of Minnesota hunters, trappers, and outdoor enthusiasts. Join us in advocating for responsible wolf management in Minnesota. Share your reports, photos, and stories, and together we will ensure that they are seen by all.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association, protecting the future of deer and deer hunting through habitat, education, advocacy, and legislation. All right, so today we're talking with Aaron Hebeisen, the chapter coordinator for Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. How's it going, Aaron?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me. Finally making it work.
Right.
Yeah,
How long has it been? Like 5 months or something?
I think since we
Something like
tried
that.
to first start.
Brainstorming this for
Right.
Yeah. And we had a few hiccups.
We should have it really dialed by now.
Yeah,
would hope
you
so.
would think so, but I hate to say.
Yeah.
I think we're good. But you're actually in town for the Pint Night tonight, right?
I
You're
am.
in town in
Yeah,
Grand
we were able to
Rapids
do it in person.
at
I'm glad
Rapids
we
Brewery.
made it work this way.
Yeah, no doubt.
Just worked out nicely.
So let's start with a little bit about you. Where you're from, kind of a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of rotate into BHA. So
Yeah. So as he said, I'm the chapter coordinator for Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. I cover and support states in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. And I'm originally from Mora, about an hour and a half north of the Twin Cities, and now live in Red Wing, Minnesota.
okay, we drove through there. What was it? August.
Oh, yeah, it was August.
Yeah.
Actually, for the arts.
Yes,
festival.
we drove through there, and I was like, "Hey, this is where Aaron's at.
Mhm.
If we had an extra day, we could hang out and go fishing or
Do
something."
something cool.
But yeah, but it didn't happen. So,
Right.
but we thought about you when we drove through.
We did.
Well, I appreciate it.
We
Yeah.
waved.
Yeah, we did wave.
Mhm.
Yep. And then we were amazed at how big Lake Pepin was.
Oh, yeah.
That place is a monster. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was that long.
Yeah. I mean, it's technically the bay of the Mississippi, right? Like,
Right,
It's
yeah,
its
right.
own standalone lake like we have up north.
Mhm.
But it's, amazing the fishery that it is
Right.
and the city of Lake City. So I lived in Lake City before living in Red Wing.
Yep.
And just the community there is, it's like Lake City or, lake community. It's where water skiing was invented, and the culture there is, definitely builds itself on that
Sailing.
lake.
I mean, there was a bunch of sailboats out there.
Yeah, big boating community, big retirement community.
Yeah.
You can't find a place open to eat after 7 p.m. Like turkey season, you come in from the woods and it's like you got one option, and it's quick trip pizza. Like that's it. That's the only thing that's open after 7 o'clock. It's all open at 6 a.m. But
right.
It's on the
Retirement time.
the retirement time for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of turkey hunting, I was just outbid on your hunt
Oh really?
like 2 hours ago.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I can't say I'm upset that you were outbid. That's great. That means it's doing well.
It
right?
was.
You put something like that together, and I'm like, man, I love doing this, and I love mentoring and taking new people
Right.
out, whether it's a quote unquote client or a new hunter. But you put something like that out there, and this is the first time I've ever had anything on an auction. And I was like, I don't know, do people really want to pay to come hunt with me? We'll see.
Well, I got the email and I looked at it and I was scrolling through, and I was like, that looked like Aaron. So I clicked on it. I was like, I called Dean. Hey,
Yeah. Yep.
Aaron's doing a turkey hunt. I'm going to bid on it. You guys are coming with if I go. So I bid it up. And I think I was up to like $1,200.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
somebody
that was the last time I saw
Yeah,
it.
that was me.
Okay. Well,
And now it's at 15. So.
yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. Great.
Right.
You had more information than I did on it. That was, I'm pretty stoked that it's going there. And it's one of those things like they drop and then they climb for the first, few
Right.
days, and then they sit still.
Yeah,
And you're like,
until the
oh, that's
end.
it. And then the last day, all those things go crazy.
Yeah.
Everybody bids it up on the last day.
Yeah, because I want to say the last time you guys did the yard sale and stuff, I want to say it was some knives or even boots or gift card, and I had bid up, and then I was winning for like 5 days, and then come the last day, I got outbid within 20 minutes of it closing. I forgot that it's like, oh, it closed tonight, so I go online, like, it closed at 7 and it was 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
It's like, and I missed out on a knife and
Yep.
something else. I was like, oh man.
That's where those auctions are. It's like you have to be there for that last hour.
Yeah. And the one thing, the knife, I only lost out by like $50. Like, oh, had I been paying attention, you know,
Oh,
but it's like,
yeah.
Right.
oh well.
So I will say whoever's bidding and had better watch it because I'm coming in that last 2
Right.
minutes.
Gonna be on it. All right, cool. Well, hope you do, man. That'd be awesome. Awesome to have you come down that
Heck
time
yeah,
of year.
that'd be a blast.
Yeah,
do some
turkey hunting's a mistress for me in the spring. That's
Is it?
for sure.
See,
I
I've
love turkey
never
hunting.
really got to do much turkey hunting
Yeah.
up here. We just finally got them up here. So
Well, and that's the thing that's so interesting about it to me is that, you know, I've grown up in Mora, we didn't have it really either.
Mhm.
It was all on a draw system, and there was like 1 or 2 guys in town that would put in for a draw for a turkey season. I'm like, who crazy old dude in town like puts in for a turkey draw. Like, what's he wasting his time and money for that?
Right.
It wasn't a thing.
Mhm.
And then I went to college in Iowa and, you know, got bit by the bug a little bit, and then moving back up from Iowa to the kind of Bluffland area. I mean,
Right.
we got mountains in the Midwest. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Right,
It's awesome.
right.
And, but like being able to hunt them in kind of that, you know, mountainous terrain is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, that is a pretty area down. I've always loved once you get, you know, that Red Wing and,
Yeah.
and even further south, Winona, that drive to Winona. I don't remember what road we were on.
Well, we're on the Lake Pippin there. And
If you just follow 61
Yeah,
basically
that's
all the
what-
way
yeah.
from
Yep,
St.
that
Paul
must be
straight
what it
down.
is.
I
that
mean,
was
you
the first
follow
time I
that.
was ever down there.
Yeah, that's honestly the first time I've been
Gorgeous.
to Winona. I've been to Red Wing and the Byron area and whatnot, but I've never been that far south.
Well, and
you
what's
know.
really cool is, I mean, every year I tell myself, well, I'm going to go out west and do an elk hunt or do an antelope hunt or, you know, go to Missouri or Oklahoma and try and hunt ducks. And then this year we've got an 18-month-old son. So that was going to make it harder to travel anyways. And then literally the day after rendezvous, we got ourselves a duck dog. And so that's been the last 6 months of kind of learning and figuring that out. So we've got an 18-month-old and an 8-month-old puppy. And so that was part of the trade-off with getting the dog, was that I wasn't going to go somewhere big and farther this year because it was going to be a lot of duck dog training.
Yep.
Which has been great because it kind of reminds me, like, I've got this mecca for waterfowl. I've got great deer hunting. I've got turkey hunting. Why do I always tell myself, I gotta go? I've got great opportunities right in my backyard. Like, use some of this stuff that's super local. So I'm pretty excited to almost be forced a little bit to focus on some of those close, cool places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. So turkey hunting is obviously, you know, one of your passions. Deer hunting.
Yeah, absolutely.
well.
I mean, that was where it all kind of started for me, was deer hunting. I grew up deer hunting up in Mora, and my grandparents had some property. And I mean, that was when you hit 12 years old, which my birthday is November 1st. So it was, you know, you turn 12 and I was going to be turning 12 right before the season. Like I would have been, you know, 12 for a week by the time my first deer season hit. So I had just made the cutoff for being able to hunt that first season. Yep. And I mean, that's where for us, that was becoming man camp. I mean, you went and you learned how to deal 5-card draw. And I was small enough that I would sit at the what normally would be the Thanksgiving table at my grandparents' house, but of course it's dads and uncles and great uncles and grandpas, and I'm sitting under the haze of cigar smoke, you know, learning how to deal 5-card draw and mix a drink for the old guys, and you know, talking smart like old guys do, and everybody has their big bag of quarters that probably has been sitting in their duffel bag since 20 seasons ago. Those quarters just get recycled every year. And that was kind of the fun part. You play quarter poker and you look at how old those quarters are and you're like, man, it's the 70s. Like, this is a 30-year-old quarter that hasn't left this duffel bag since then.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I love that. We actually just took our sons to deer camp.
We did
for the first time for youth season.
Cool. How was it?
It was great. They all did great. They all got deer.
Yeah, it was a kind of a slow start. It was more. It started out as grouse camp. We saw a lot more grouse and everything, and I think just because it was a little warmer, and where we were at, there wasn't as many deer coming through that, you know, this time of year. So we ended up moving spots, and they all 3 tagged out within 3 hours of each other.
Saturday morning.
Yeah, Saturday morning.
Not too slow then.
Not Saturday morning.
No. And it was my son's first deer. He wasn't lucky enough to get one the previous year, so it was his first deer. So that was pretty cool.
Okay.
You know, and the first time hunting with the rifle, and so that was pretty neat.
So again, with me having a 18-month-old kid, how did you view deer camp differently this year than maybe in the past? Was it different for you, or was it old hat?
Well, honestly, we haven't been to deer camp in
Yeah, our deer camp was Camp Ripley. Yep.
Okay.
That's what we used to do for deer camp, me and Dino.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really wasn't a whole lot of, we didn't really treat it different other than it's like, oh yeah, we got kids here.
We got to be somewhat responsible.
Yeah. So, but the cool thing is during the day where we were at, they were shooting shotguns. They went through 2 or 3 bricks of 22 shells, so, I mean, they had a blast, and then just watching them have fun. And the cool thing is all 3 of the older boys, there was 4 boys, and the 3 older ones went to Four Corn Camp.
Okay.
And our 2 went to Four Corn Camp too. So they knew all the safety stuff. And so you really didn't, you kind of kept an eye, but you really didn't have to too much because the camps really taught them a lot.
They did great. They surprised me how well they treated those firearms.
Yeah.
Good.
How well they acted in the woods.
How was the snack situation? Everybody tells me bring more snacks than you think you have to bring.
Yes.
Yeah. We, so Saturday when we took the deer in to drop them off for processing, we had to buy 4 more bags of chips.
Yep. Of course, it's the loudest snack in the woods. Why can't you pick I remember being told I had to because it was always right after Halloween, pre-unwrap your candy bars so you're not crinkling them in the stand. I was like, man, these guys take it serious. I mean, a Reese's peanut butter cup is built for hunting season. It's already dressed for the occasion.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
Yep. No, I usually I buy that big bag. Actually, I got one here in the studio, but that big bag of old-fashioned jerky.
Yeah, jerky's
the pucks,
the way to go.
or whatever.
Sure.
And the only bad part about that, of course, we were sitting in box blinds, but the only bad part is it smells. I open up and not even once I open the bag of jerky, I open up my backpack that has the bag in. It's like, man, all I smell is jerky. Right. It's like, I'm going to get, a coyote to come up before I'm going to get a deer. But no, it was pretty cool. It was a blast, and the cool thing is that was their first deer camp memories, so hopefully we can have a lot more to come.
Right.
For sure. Like I said, I remembered dealing cards and playing quarter poker just as much as any certain sit. Looking back, it was the processing. You have the meat tree that you hang deer on, and is your deer bigger than grandpa's? Or did such and such an uncle even get a deer this year? Oh, this is his 3rd year not getting one. Give him a little crap for it. But yeah, no, like you said, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty excited for that.
It was a good deal.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So you've said you've been out west hunting.
I have.
And whatnot. Okay.
Yeah, I've been hunting out west. Actually, it's funny. My deer camp group, I guess, kind of evolved in my senior year of high school. I was a couple weeks shy of, for the first elk season, a couple weeks shy of my 18th birthday. So I was still able to get a youth tag. That was so good job, parents, on November 1st birthday.
Right.
But that was my graduation from high school gift from my dad. That was my senior present was going on my first elk hunt. So we drove into the bottom of the mountain, took horses. I think it was 4 or 5 miles up to camp, and then spike camped out from there. And so since that was just right before 18 was my first Western hunt. Went to college, went back a couple of times for antelope and mule deer hunts. Basically just dove on to try it and do something. And at that point it was $40 a tag, and you can get 2 of them over the counter. So it was tons of opportunity. And I tell anybody who's looking to go out west for the first time, don't overlook the doe fawn and cow tags, because there's so much opportunity. You can essentially have the same experience, whether you're trying to get bugling bulls or spot and stock antelope, same experience. You can get into the same type of habitat and terrain and topography, but spend a lot less money doing it.
Right.
So, I've been out west pretty much every year since then, for something. And now, like I said, this is the first year in quite a few years that I haven't gone out west. But whether it's elk, antelope, mule deer, I love going out west. It's just totally different. It's just a different thing than sitting in a deer stand, which I love both, but it's a different game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm beginning to think I might be too fat to go out west.
Right.
My dad said the same thing. He's like, at this point, I want to sit for it. And the thing is, we've got guys who at that very first elk camp, he goes out and he deer hunts them. He knows the spots he goes. He tries to find game trails. He hangs a deer stand up and he'll sit in the mountains in a deer stand. Wow. And we're like, what are you doing? That's not why we're out here. But he kills elk more consistently than anybody else. So you can't fault him for it.
Right. So see, there's hope for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Midwest
I could take my saddle out there.
And those elk aren't looking up.
True.
You know, they're not used to sitting there looking up in the trees like the deer here are. So they're not nearly as cagey.
Boom. There you go.
Perfect. I'm sad. I got my, now
Talk you back into it.
right. I have another reason to take my saddle to actually saddle hunt. So I could definitely do that.
All right.
Yeah, that's gotten to be a bigger thing for, especially in our organization, you know, trying to go in as light and fast as you can. And you know, what's the next way to go a little bit farther, stay a little bit longer. And people are looking at doing some more saddle stuff for Western game.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, because it's so light, you can carry everything with you. And the nice thing is, you know, you get up in a tree after a few hours, it's like, oh, they're moving over there. It's so much quieter and quicker to move than anything else,
right?
You know, and so much lighter to move around,
right?
Yeah, I mean, a climber is one thing, but
it is big and clunky.
Yeah, they're still kind of big and clunky, and you know, but
I do like my climber, but it is big and clunky.
Yeah. A little bit about BHA. So we had attended that. What do they call that? Fire.
Oh, the Keepers of the Flame.
Yeah. We had done that. And I know we had mentioned it on one of our previous podcasts, but that was pretty cool. That was really neat. And like we've said before, we've been members. Well, you've been a member of BHA longer than I have.
Yeah, I forget what year, but it's been quite a while.
Yeah. And I know I've been a member, I think at the beginning when I first moved here, off and on. And then strictly for over probably 8 years now, I want to say.
Okay.
And actually in that between time, I think I was a member of BHA before MDHA in that between time. You know, better marketing from BHA at that point, but now, I don't know, it's pretty close.
Yeah, we're getting better. We're getting better.
Yeah, right? I've been an MDHA member since, you know, I was a kid.
Yeah.
That was the magazines, and that was everybody that I was part of that camp that was part of camp was, you know, you get to see those people one other time a year besides deer camp, and that was at the spring banquets.
Yep.
So that's kind of how you stayed connected with that community outside of camp. But I guess I've been involved with BHA since about 2016 myself, and it actually came from a Western hunt. I was out antelope hunting, and in the West, you don't have to post public land like you do in Minnesota. In Minnesota, you know, it's every 100 yards or whatever. You have the landowner has the responsibility to post. And if it's posted, then, you know, it's private, whatever. And out West, it's on the hunter to know what's private or not. Well, and this was back before OnX had really blown up like it had in other mapping apps. But, you know, we kind of got ourselves in some hot water of like, can we hunt here? Can we not hunt here? Because it's not posted. And as a Minnesotan, we expect, well, it's got to be posted if it's private.
Right.
And so you go out on what you think is BLM land, and you get a rancher coming out shaking a fist at you. And I remember, you know, at that point, pulling up whatever map we had and going, okay, I'm on public land, and I know that's public land. This road should be public, but there's a gate across it that's not on the map. Well, far be it from me to be the guy who's going to go and jump over that gate and end up with a rifle in my face.
Right.
So I remember coming back from that trip to Wyoming, really kind of having a bad taste in my mouth about Western hunting. It's like, if this is what it's going to be like, this kind of sucks. I'm not going to go out here to be landlocked all the time. Forget it. And it was probably 6 months later that I found out about an organization who was looking to open up those lands, make sure that public land isn't closed to, you know, the general public access like we had seen. And I said, cool, sign me up. Oh, wait, they've also got a Minnesota chapter. Like, great. There's other Minnesotans who are thinking of doing the same thing as me. And so I met up with a few members. And at that point, I think I was number 107 to join the Minnesota chapter. For whatever reason, I remember that number. But I think right now we're somewhere flirting right around 1250 in Minnesota. And we're actually the Minnesota chapter is the fourth biggest chapter in the country.
Wow.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. And you guys are in 23 states? No, more.
49.
49 states.
49. The only one missing and holdout at this point is Hawaii.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
So, we're all over the place. I want to say we're somewhere right around 30,000 members nationwide. And so Minnesota's, like I said, got a really strong contingent. And for, I guess, the listeners that aren't as familiar with Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, we're the voice for public lands, waters, and wildlife. So instead of focusing on a certain species, we focus on the land and the water and access to those places, whether that's through stewardship, boots on the ground projects like WMA fence removals to make sure that hunters and dogs aren't getting injured out on old fence line that's kind of dilapidated and fallen down, or the legislative piece, you know, stumping for you at the Capitol or the town hall meetings, and, you know, really trying to be that boots on the ground watchdog for these places. And that's as a single state organization. So when you join a chapter of BHA, it's $35 to join as an individual member. You are part of the Minnesota chapter, whether you live in Duluth or Grand Rapids or Pipestone, you are part of the Minnesota chapter. So we as an organization have the responsibility to make sure we're getting our chapter leadership to all those places and can meet up with those members. But we also need our members to get a hold of us when there's an issue, because as one staff guy for the region that I have and 10 to 12 board members per state, we can't be everywhere. So we need our members to get back to us and say, hey, look, there's this issue happening in my area, or this boat ramp closed, or this WMA is full of trash. Can we go do a cleanup? And when they do that, I mean, it leads to some really engaged membership, and they really take ownership over their own public lands in their area. And they've been really awesome to work with.
Absolutely. I think when I signed up, it was part of the Sportsman for the Boundary Waters. I think they used to sell you guys as memberships way back when. Yeah,
there was a lot of stuff back in the day that we did with Sportsman, and we still work with Sportsman a lot, especially, I mean, that all kind of came from some of the Boundary Waters stuff. That when that was the biggest hot button issue, you go out to the National Rendezvous in Denver or Washington or Missoula, and they're like, Minnesota chapter, huh? How's the Boundary Waters? That's just the thing that everybody,
and I think they're the ones that
that's the nationally known thing for BHA or for Minnesota chapter.
Yeah, that's what got me going.
Yeah, because with BHA, you guys don't necessarily do like MDHA chapters, or not chapters, banquets.
Right.
So, every chapter has a banquet, or most chapters have banquets, and most chapters are local community based, towns, counties, stuff like that, where you guys are obviously statewide, but you guys don't necessarily hold a banquet statewide, or do you?
No, we're kind of figuring out exactly how that model works best. And every state is going to be different, because Minnesota's a big state. We could hold one in Delaware, and it'd be a lot easier for Delaware members to get to a banquet because they don't have to travel as far. But as a single state chapter, if we were to hold a single banquet, let's say in the Twin Cities metro area, well, we're going to be cutting out the Duluth members, the Northern Minnesota members. Any of the outstates going to go, I can't make it to that banquet. So we do a couple of annual events that are bigger. Our North Country Icebreaker is a good example. That's kind of our big annual, hey, we're going to do this in one location, find a good lake, public lake, do some fishing on it, do some dark house spearing, do some seminars, get everybody together. And this is our big annual state get together, as it were. But then we try and do these regional, like we're doing this evening, pint nights. And that's kind of our way of trying to connect locally. It's not this giant major fundraiser, but we're going to do all these kind of mini ones. And that's the way that we can have found to better engage membership throughout the state. The other reason for us having a single state chapter entity is if I'm, let's say, in Red Wing, based out of Red Wing, and I have a legislator that I need to engage with in the Twin Cities metro, if I pick up a phone and try and engage that legislature or that legislator, and I'm not a constituent, they're going to go, what do I care about your opinion? Click. But if I can say I represent an organization that's got 1,200 members in their state, some of which are their constituents, and mobilize those members to get to those town hall meetings and to reach out to those legislators. Okay, now they're going to listen a little bit more. So it gives us a little bit more clout to say you're part of the Minnesota chapter at the legislator and with the agency.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. So you encompass 4 states, 5 states?
I've got 5.
5 states. Wow. That is, so you're busy on the phone, computer, email,
it's going,
all the time?
I tell people, like, every Batman needs an Alfred. There's always a man behind the desk. It's for someone, and I get to be the man behind the desk. So a lot of times it's the sending the email blast, the creating events, making sure members are engaged, answering those email questions that come in, making sure memberships are updated, making sure new chapter leaders are onboarded. That kind of stuff. But then, when I get to go out and get let out of my office, that's the fun stuff. That's when I get to press the flesh and engage the public and remind myself like why I'm doing this. That's the stuff that energizes me. Getting to do these pint nights, getting to go do a trail cleanup or a stewardship project here a couple end of September during Public Lands Month. Got to go put in some wood duck houses. And then after that, we got to go, and that was a partnership with the Army Corps. So that was on public land. And then we got to go and hunt that land with the Army Corps folks. So a little bit of like, reap what you sow. We got to, work that land, do something good for the habitat, but then also get to hunt it and show a lot of new people who had never duck hunted before. Hey, this is your public lands, and this is what we're doing for these lands. And this is what, your return is for that.
So speaking of the Minnesota events, what's the plans for this winter one, the big one?
The icebreaker, man, we are just kind of getting it put together. But at this point, we're looking end of January in Breezy Point.
Oh,
So
nice.
First revelation of that, I guess. Outside of the board.
Yep.
So that's the plan. It's going to be in Breezy Point.
That'd be cool. We wanted to go to the one in Mille Lacs, but it just
I think we had some other thing that was
I know.
conflict.
I don't
with it.
remember
It
what was the
sports
issue.
show or something.
could have been or one of our meetings or banquet or something. But
yeah, because we were going to get the rooms and everything, and something popped up because it sounded like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome. Yeah, with that event, kind of history back behind it, we have had these sort of summer rendezvous, right? State-based chapter camp out get together, 2017, 2018, 2019, and then COVID hit, and people weren't ready to have a summer get together in 2020, and so we didn't get to do anything that summer. Fast forward to 2021, there are some people that are still kind of leery. Should we try and get a summer event together? And some people weren't quite ready yet. They said, well, what about a winter event? And I grimaced and I was like, are you kidding me? We're going to try and hold an outdoor event in January? What are you talking about? On the lake? Like, it could be 30 and the ice conditions are terrible, or it could be 30 below and nobody's going to want to go outside. What are we doing? Yeah. And these summer rendezvous had always had like 30 to 40 people. I mean, okay, turnout for a camp out, but nothing huge. And we were blown away. That first winter rendezvous was 80 people. Nice. And we're like, wow, man, this could work. And that was just as I was transitioning from chapter volunteer to a full-time staff guy in 2022. I got a call from the HQ folks, and they said that state rendezvous you did, can you regionalize it? Can you make this a regional rendezvous and invite the folks from Wisconsin or Iowa or the Dakotas and try and bring folks together that aren't willing to travel all the way to Montana or all the way to Washington or Colorado for the national rendezvous. Right. Let's try and have a regional one, which is how the North Country Icebreaker was born. So that very first one that we had in Mille Lacs here a couple of years ago was, I think we ended up with like 180 people. Pretty good turnout. We were really, really excited about it. And then because it was designed to be this regional event, we were going to try and travel it around. And so last year it was in Wisconsin, and now this year we're bringing it back to Minnesota.
Okay. Yeah.
Good deal.
And then this last spring, you guys had your rendezvous here.
We did. Yep.
Yeah.
It was the North American rendezvous.
That was the first time it's ever been out of Montana, right?
First time it's ever been outside of the Mountain West.
Okay.
Yep. It had been in, Spokane, Denver, and Missoula for the previous few years. And this was the first time that it had been outside of the Mountain West, actually outside of Montana then since COVID. Mm-hmm. So there was, there was a lot of pressure on having it outside of the mountains, but I think we did all right. Yeah. It was a good turnout. And there was a lot of folks that we talked to at that event that had never been to a rendezvous at all. So that really showed us that, man, there's a lot of interest for public lands and support outside of the Mountain West. Right. And that it's not just an organization based out of the Mountain West, like, originally it kind of started. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was another event that, here we go again. We were going to go.
And we always have good intentions.
Right, we have good intentions. Actually, that was right around my birthday. And I don't remember what happened.
I don't know. That was a long time ago.
I don't know. I don't know. I was probably being too cheap or something. Who knows? But we're going to make it to one of these events. One of them. I guess the good thing is hey, we always attend our local event. I'll say that's the beauty of us having the Pint Night. Exactly. When you can't make it to the rendezvous, you can't make it to the icebreaker. We have no excuse. We'll come to Grand Rapids. Yeah, there's no excuse. We always show up there. And that's a big part of what we need from our members is to know, they come to a bigger event. They go, man, I'd really love you to have a Pint Night in St. Cloud. Mm-hmm. I'd really love you to have one in Mora or wherever. Right. Great. That's you tell us and you help us find the venue and the time and the date and stuff. We'll get you there. We'll get people there. Right. We need to hear from our local members to help mobilize in that area. If there's an interest, we'll get there. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So we talked, you guys started obviously out west, but one of our local guys was kind of part of that, wasn't he? David? Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, he's a Grand Rapids local. Yeah. And he is an MDHA member too. Yep. Lifetime member. Yeah. But he's not part of the organization anymore, really, is he? Yeah, he is. So you're talking about David Lean, right? Yeah. So David Lean
was actually one of the first 6 guys I met at BHA when I talked about, getting together for that very first camp out. There was a handful of guys, and David was one of them that I went, and it was actually it was at a state park, rained all weekend long. It was a horrible weekend. And so we sat in a canopy tent, one of those bug awnings all weekend. And David gave me the whole history of the organization. And it was, like I said, terrible weather the whole weekend. But I learned a ton from those guys, and it was really fun to hear from the leadership at that point, because he had been a national board member. He was so ingrained and believed in the mission. He knew the founders, and the organization started in 2004 in Oregon, around a campfire in Oregon. And so this was our 20th anniversary. So, and it started as a chapter, and he was one of the founding members for the Minnesota chapter in 2010. So it was David and another guy, Eric Jensen, that started the Minnesota chapter in 2010. And David has since moved to Colorado. So he sits on the Colorado board still. And Colorado is one of those other just mega chapters. They're just a monster. Great membership, super engaged. They do a ton of projects. And David really kind of leads the charge out there. But when David moved out to Colorado, there was kind of a gap in leadership. And so that was when I rolled into, at that point, being a chapter leader for Minnesota chapter.
Makes sense. Yeah, I just going through some old magazines, I found that out. I don't know, probably a month ago.
Because he wrote some articles for us.
Yeah, he wrote articles, and I know we were talking about it one time, and I'm like, he wrote an article, and then at the bottom it says Grand Rapids native, Like, wow, small world.
Yeah. David's got articles in everything, I feel like. You find them in MDHA magazine, you find them in Bugle, you find them in our magazine.
He's wrote some books,
he's got a couple of books.
Or something. I know, because he popped up on my Facebook the other day because he's friends with one of my friends, and they were talking about local stuff. So I was like, does he still live around here? Because he's talking about local issues, but then he's posting pictures from Colorado. So
yeah, he comes back a lot. I think he comes back at least annually, like every fall for a grouse hunt. He comes back to grouse hunt every year, and then maybe even deer season too.
Okay.
So he's got a soft spot for northern Minnesota. That's for sure. That's always home.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and speaking of magazine, I really like your guys' magazine.
Yeah,
I mean, just Whitetails obviously is, we're kind of biased on that end, but I always enjoy getting your guys' magazine and just the color of it and the articles, and it's great. I think they're both really good, good pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Our editor does a really good job at that, and really kind of the goal with that is to try and keep it as much for members by members as it can be. So the articles are written by members, the recipes, the stories, the stewardship projects, any of the rah, here's, get people riled up kind of stuff is coming from, again, the boots on the ground mindset of the organization is really driven by our members. And so we kind of have our magazine that kind of matches that. Yeah.
And I always like reading from each state, what's going on in each state, even Minnesota. It's nice to see what you guys are working on. What's that,
because it's hard. It's hard to stay, up on everybody's Instagram or everybody's Facebook at what's going on. And as the staff person, it's hard to capture it all sometimes. To write a blog post about everything that's always happening in every state, it's very humbling to go back through and read that and go, wow, look at what they're doing in whatever, Maine. Look at what they're doing in Florida. It's really cool. And how empowered our chapter leaders are to be so individual depending on their state. It's not one state, here's our initiative that we're pushing nationally, and blanket statement. Everybody gets to be really uniquely individual with what they push. And within that public lands and waters mission, how does that affect your state?
Really
how can you make the biggest impact within your state?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that really turned me on to BHA was the boundary water stuff, because I grew up going to boundary waters, and then when there was always issues up there, nobody was really talking about it, and then there's this big organization out west talking about, man, these guys must know what they're doing. So that's why I signed up.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, and what I like about it is, I don't have land of my own, so I have to hunt on public land, and that's where, MDHA really kicks in that locally and, statewide with the WMAs, they do a lot of that and the programs, but then BHA also as well does just as much, as MDHA does. So, I mean, both together, are a pretty good, strong conservation groups.
And that's why we've, worked with MDHA on the initiatives that we have for so long, is rising tides raise all ships.
Right.
I mean, there's things that you guys can do that aren't in our wheelhouse and vice versa.
Right.
And so if, together we can host a thing or work on one piece of policy that's maybe going to drive people towards the other organization and cross over and show, man, these 2 or 3 or 4 organizations all feel the same way or are all pushing for the same thing. Maybe we should look at this a little bit harder and engage on it. And they're getting an email from you guys about the Vote Yes initiatives,
Yeah,
voting.
I was just going to bring that up.
So was I.
Yep. on something like that, or whatever other piece, like they need to see it a few times for it to actually drive it home.
Right.
Well, and then the other, and to that point is all these organizations are, we're all together and we all have, the same end game for a lot of these issues, so your voice can be heard from MDHA, from BHA, and then there's other, and you can be a part of more than one organization.
Absolutely.
And have that camaraderie with each other and whatnot. But then also, know that there's some things that BHA does, out west that doesn't concern me, or certain policies that you guys do that I may not be totally aligned with, but I'm aligned with, 80 other percent of your policies. Same with MDHA, you may not align with 100% of it, but there's more that you are aligned with than not. And we can still be part of the conversation, have a conversation, and be part of the groups and not have to fight with each other over it.
Man, talk about like a societal mission statement now. Is that like how many people are like, well, if you're not 100%, you're 100% against.
Yep.
And it's I think a mentality that we just need to look at more holistically and just go, look,
break out of
if
that.
80% of the things we agree on, let's just agree to disagree on the 20s.
Right. And focus on the 80.
Look for that 80, we agree. And so let's push forward with that 80 and get that thing. And then if we can get to a point where all we have left to do is argue about those 20s that are different, like we're in a good place.
Right.
Right.
No
But
doubt.
there's a whole lot of people out there that would rather, see hunting go away completely or certain types of hunting go away completely. That let's band together. And I mean, it can be broken down beyond public land, private land, rifle, bow, crossbow, shotgun, whatever, right? Like we can get as niche as you want to, but at the end of the day, we're all trying to kind of drive that hunting heritage mission home and keep that around for our kids and our kids' kids and make sure we all have places to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And kudos to BHA to be able to handle a lot, I mean, it's right in your name, Hunters and Anglers, to take on the fishing end of it too, which is, I don't know, is hunting larger than angling?
I would say it's tough. It's tough, especially this time of year to talk about it because right now, everything is thinking about orange, orange and camo right now. But in the spring, I mean, if you look at our journals, the fall and winter issues are very hunting focused. Spring and summer are very fishing focused. So, and that's by design. I mean, I would say honestly, and depending on your state, I would say probably it breaks down pretty close to 50-50 in Minnesota, because there just is more anglers in Minnesota than there are hunters, but there's such a vehement support of hunting. Like it's just a louder, smaller chunk for the hunters. And being that it was, very Western focused, there's a lot of that hunting crowd that is also your mule deer, your antelope, your elk hunters that are going out. And so they're that much more passionate about it. But on the flip side, you also have, you might be a boat angler here, but you like to go out to Montana and fly fish, or you like to go down into the Keys and fish for redfish. And so some of those areas that don't have the hunting opportunities that we do in the Midwest are so much bigger on the fishing side. I mean, I've got coworkers and colleagues that are based on the East Coast, and their big thing that they're driving is striped bass management,
I suppose.
So, I mean, ocean fishing is another huge piece that's like, you don't think of that as public lands and waters, but it's like, oh man, anything regarding the ocean or waterfowl flyways. I mean, there's stuff that's a whole nother piece. Yes, it's the hunting side, but we're not even talking terrestrial mammals anymore, right? Like bird stuff is another giant piece.
Yeah, that's a lot to do.
I thought we had it rough with just deer.
And that's the tough part is finding a way to stay mission focused. I mean, because it's so easy to be drawn into whatever issue because it could be tangentially, public land focused. Oh, it could affect public lands and waters. It could affect conservation in this way. So trying to stay really mission focused and, can it affect at some point our ability to hunt or our opportunities for hunting, or our access to do so.
Right.
If it's going to somehow be connected with that, and that's how we got engaged in with MDHA on the CWD
Right.
stuff in the first place, CWD Action Coalition.
Yep.
Right.
We as BHA were really kind of watching from the outside as far as really our members were engaged on it. They cared about that issue a lot, but it wasn't totally square wheelhouse for us. And we were kind of figuring out, like, does this work for our mission in Minnesota?
Right.
And then the servant farmer dumped carcasses on public land.
Yep.
In Bemidji.
Yep.
And okay, so now this has affected our ability to hunt that public land. Now it's an access issue. Now BHA can jump in whole hog.
Yep. Right.
And we were able to just be in with both feet. And so that's when we really engaged and drove home and joined that coalition, started that coalition with the CWD Action Coalition, and really started to engage hard on CWD efforts. And that just married really well with our CWD Pint Nights.
Yeah.
Right. And now, do you do the CWD part of the Pint Nights all over the state, or is it just up here in northern Minnesota? I suppose down in southern Minnesota makes sense too.
down there too.
I guess background with that was, so we've had this Pint Night model really since the organization, because we don't have that banquet model. We want to engage folks all over the state.
Right.
And everybody loves Peter.
And it's an easy way to get people to come out and have a happy hour for a couple hours, meet other members in your area who are like-minded, who have the same conservation focus as you do. And it's just been a really good way for us to engage our audience, engage other hunters and anglers. And so I got to do my math here quick, but I think in 2022 the DNR started their volunteer sample submissions. In 2021, a few of our board members were out hunting, and a guy killed his first deer. Just a super one-man story, but it paints a really good picture. Shot his first archery deer in southern Minnesota, right next, I don't remember the county, but it was right next to Olmsted County, which is where Rochester is.
Yep.
And shoots his first deer, guts it, cleans it, actually walked in waders up a creek, up a culvert, so he never touched public or private land in order to not trespass.
Yep.
Gets out to the road, and so spoiler, I was with him, and which is why I know this whole story. And so we go to the local nature center, and that's where the drop station was supposed to be. Well, it's pheasant opener, and the drop station was closed. Nature center's closed. There's no sign on the door. What are we supposed to do with this deer?
Yeah.
And we're the guys who fancy ourselves conservationists. We want to do this the right way, but now we've got this deer that, what are we supposed to do? Go dump it back on the public land?
Right.
And it's like, well, that's not right. So the best thing that we can do is to break the law and transport it across county lines to the closest check station or dump site, and turn in that head. If we're going through that much effort to try and do this and having that much trouble, what's the average Joe going through?
Right.
And he's going to say, forget it. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to check my deer. Forget it. I'm going to go home. I'm going to process it, and we're going to, not do this.
Forget about it.
And so that started, conversation with the DNR about, well, we're somewhere there's a miss here, the miscommunication, or how do we make this easy for the public? If you want samples, you have to make it easy for them. And they said, okay, well, what would you do different? And so, kind of in line with when they started that volunteer sample submission, we said, okay, where are the hotbeds right now for CWD? And so Grand Rapids and the Twin Cities, where we were going to start this pilot program of CWD focused Pint Nights. And so we had our normal Pint Night model, but we said the DNR biologist is going to come out. They're going to flip a tailgate down. They're going to show you how to remove the lymph nodes at this event. You can go out in the parking lot with your beer, ask questions, see it done in person, and we're going to give you a sample kit so you can go back to your own hunting camp, and you can bring a few extra kits for mom, dad, aunts, uncles, and your kids. Right. So now you have the knowledge and the tools to send in your own samples. And in that first year, the DNR came back to us after that hunting season and said those 2 counties that you had those events in yielded the highest return of samples within the state.
No way. Wow.
Yeah. Can you do it again? And so in 2023, the state chapter took that challenge and said, we're going to hold 6 Pint Nights in October. And I went, you're going to hold how many? You're going to do what now? Right. And so that was last year, and it was awesome. I mean, we did it. It was all over the state. And so again, same thing. Those 6 counties, those were the highest yield of returns. So we had a proven model at this point that said, look, this works. People are coming to your events. People are engaging. People are buying, getting the kits. you can go online and you can request them from the DNR and they'll mail them to you.
Yep.
But to go and see it in person and ask questions and pull that deer neck apart
Right.
and see those samples be pulled out, it something clicks differently than watching a YouTube video or just, looking at the pamphlet.
Yeah. Right.
And so we've had really, really good response to having those events.
Good deal.
And so that was, decided to do the same thing this year. And so we had, let's see if I can remember them all. We kind of decided to try and move it around the state throughout the month of October, but we did Rochester, Rochester, Nisswa, Duluth, the Twin Cities here on Tuesday, now Grand Rapids, and we'll do Ely on Monday.
Okay.
So yeah, try and cover the gambit, especially those hotspot areas,
Right.
that do have those positive cases, especially like the wild cases. Where are the spots where people are most concerned about this thing that are going to want to show up and learn about this? And we fold out the maps and say, look, here's what the zone is, here's what your restrictions are, and people, it's a miscommunication thing. People just aren't aware, and they don't know what questions to ask. I don't know how many people I talked to on Tuesday that said, what do you mean if I shoot a deer and it's CWD positive, the DNR is going to replace my tag? And I said, yeah. And I said, I didn't know that until a couple of years ago when I stood up at the governor's deer opener and said, I think you should do this like Wisconsin does. And they said, we do that. And I said, if I don't know that, the public certainly doesn't know that.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like I said, there's pieces like that it's, you can't know you need to have that conversation until you do it in person.
Yep.
And you go, did you know this? And they go, no, I had no idea. There's no reason not to turn my samples in then. And I think there's a lot of people who maybe thought, it's just too much work. Well, it's like, as long as you hang on to your deer, process it the way you would process it, and just save it for a couple of weeks. Eat last year's deer or whatever before, and in theory, your deer's going to come back showing no positive anyways, and you're good to go.
Right.
But
Yeah.
wait an extra couple of weeks.
And the DNR have gotten better over last few years about getting the samples in or returning the results quicker. Yeah. I mean, granted, during the height of
Opening
rifle
weekend,
season,
forget about it.
you're definitely going, and I think they say on average 10 days is what they strive for,
Right.
But I've heard, obviously, early archery season when there's not as many, harvested, 2 days.
Yeah. It can be quick.
So it can be really quick. So that's really nice, and then they've got the taxidermists wrapped into it too.
Yep.
So if you get a really nice buck and you take it to a taxidermist, they all know how to do it as well.
And not ruin that cape. And I've actually heard some butchers too.
Yes. I was going to say some butchers are doing it as well. So,
makes sense.
And make it really nice and easy. Cause that was always my question. Okay. So I don't process my own deer. So if I take it to a butcher in that zone, in that area, then what happens? I mean, are they hanging on to them? Are they sampling them, whatnot? So that's another question that, could be asked.
Sure. And then you also have that question too of, well, am I getting my own deer back?
Right.
When
That's always been a question.
That's always been a question.
Yeah. When you go to the butcher and you assume you're going to get 30 pounds of grind back, are you getting 30 pounds from your deer, or are you getting, especially opening weekend and everybody's doing hundreds and hundreds of pounds of grind and you're going to get that amount of grind back, but are you getting your deer worth of grind back?
Yep.
And I've been a big proponent of just doing my own strictly for that reason. It's like, because I know that it's my deer. And, not to say that every butcher is, mixing, but I wouldn't blame them if they were. That's a lot of work to try and do it individually.
I mean, you go there and drop off a deer sometimes and you see how many deer they have to deal with.
Yep.
I don't know how they could keep them separate and still get it done in a timely manner.
Yeah. And yeah, for me, and we've discussed this, it's not that I don't have the time. I'll admit I don't take the time and don't have the knowledge or the space.
Yeah.
So I take it to a processor, and it's, and very trusted processor in the area that I would pretty sure 99.9% you're going to get your deer back there. But I completely understand with some areas, you don't know, so, but yeah, that's always, something to think about for sure.
Right.
Especially in, hot CWD zones.
Right.
So,
Sure.
But were you going to say something?
I was just going to ask, for the Minnesota chapter at the BHA, what is one of the hot topics right? What is the hot topic right? I mean, obviously right now it's probably CWD, at this moment, but like what is on your radar that we should know about?
So you're right. CWD is kind of right now the hot topic issue, because that's what the chapter is focusing on, making sure people are aware of, coming down. But I would say, honestly, the big topic right now is land transfers potentially to the tribes.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing last year that kind of came across our radar. And I don't want to say it surprised us, but it was a lot more public engagement than we expected on that issue. I mean, that was, everybody was asking us about that, and especially rolling right into rendezvous. We needed to be really tactful and on top of the issue, knowing what was at stake, but not only because of it was such a big issue in Minnesota, but because it was something that had national implications. There was, whatever Minnesota did with this issue was going to be looked at nationally, with the tribal transfers and the bills that were proposed both in the House and in the Senate. There was essentially 4 bills, right? Like there was 2 for the White Earth band and then 2 regarding the Red Lake.
Right. Yep.
And so 1 in the Senate for White Earth, 1 in the House for White Earth, 1 in the Senate for Red Lake, 1 in the House for Red Lake. And so companion bills for each. With the White Earth bill, then and then communications with that band, we got the impression that there was the interest in keeping public access open to the public.
Right.
So we were a lot more willing to have conversations, whereas with Red Lake being a closed reservation and knowing the way that band has operated in the past, that it's closed reservation, to anybody that's not a tribal member.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, for us, losing an acre of public land is a no-go, regardless of where it is. And so that was 80,000 acres that potentially would have been closed off to public access. Right. And so we had to be very careful about kind of threading that needle and saying, obviously this is a culturally sensitive issue. How do you engage on this?
Yeah.
And not, piss off one side or the other too bad. Obviously we have to be conscious of the tribal members and, any kind of historical injustices, but we also have to be conscious of the public that has the jobs and the cabins and the farms and the businesses in that area. But for us, it was really a clean way for us to look at it. Again, we kind of went back to that mission statement and said, look, we're the access organization. For the sake of this conversation, we're not going to take those 2 opinions and let those kind of cloud our judgment on us. This is about access, regardless of the beneficiary, whether it's a tribe or a big business or the Koch brothers or any other, rich guy owning a chunk of mountain.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a loss of public access to the greater good, to the greater public, and therefore we're opposed to it. We're willing to have the conversations if it means keeping access open. As far as title transfer, let's have a conversation about it. But that's been kind of a sticky one. But we, I think, did a really good job of kind of threading that needle and going, look, if it's a loss of access, then we're opposed to it. If it's something that is going to maintain and continue access, and the biggest part here is like triple, quadruple, underlined, highlighted, and italicized in perpetuity. Like, we don't just want this for a 20-year. We don't just want this for the next generation. The goal is to keep this open forever, as much as possible. And so, if you're willing to have that conversation and willing to give us continued access in perpetuity, then we'll talk. But they and the feedback from that statement has been really positive. But we anticipate that being another issue that kind of comes back, and sort of gearing up for that. Post 2024.
Yeah.
We're anticipating that being another big one.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering where that whole subject went, because it got quiet here for a while. I haven't heard from it for a while.
Yeah, I know it was probably something that was there was a plan put in place to basically have it on a calendar for the legislature, put it out there so it's been talked about, and we can say, look, we've been fighting this issue for 2 years, 3 years, whatever. We proposed it in 2024. It's not going to be something that goes away quickly, and it's not going to be a Minnesota specific issue. It's going to pop up here. It'll pop up in other states, and around the country. And those will be long slog fights. So
yeah, it's a tough one.
It's messy, but like we can't not be at the table for it.
Right.
It was something that, because it's access focused, we knew we had to come out and be on it and have kudos to the team in the Minnesota chapter. Came up with an excellent mission statement on that, our stance on that issue. Like I said, really threaded the needle well, worked with our headquarters and myself and our other policy folks to craft that language that made sure it was very clear where we stood on things, that we weren't going to budge an inch, but that we were also conscious of all the pieces at play there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of the way I felt about it too, is you have to look at the historical aspect of it too. I mean, of course, to be respectful, but it gets so difficult.
Some of that stuff. Yeah. It's just
Today.
It's like, really? We shouldn't have to address this, or it, like you said, you're really threading a needle. I mean, it could go real positive in an instance, or it can go real negative really quick with the wrong wording, the wrong message in a way. So it's like, yeah, that's a tough one. And we deal with some of that as well. But yeah.
Well, and it comes back to what we were saying before about the working with different parties. I mean, and whether it's different organizations or different legislators, whatever, if we weigh in too strong on X issue over here, let's say it's the boundary waters, but we want to work with that legislator who we opposed on boundary waters, but we want to work with them on, timber management or something. Yep. We don't want to piss them off bad enough that they won't work with us on this thing. And it's like this kind of like, can we silo this and be like, we're just about this right now. Let's agree to disagree, and then let's work together on this thing.
Yep.
As much as we can to keep it focused on the issue and not let stuff hold grudges into another one.
Right. That's tough to do.
Right. Yep. And that's MDHA. We have a lobbyist, and they do a lot of that for us, which really helps, keep us on that even keel and whatnot, and going back and forth. So it's tough. It's a slippery slope at times.
Yeah. And it's nice to, be parts of things like our CWD Action Coalition, when we can bounce ideas off of each other and work together and go, well, what are you seeing from your membership?
Yep.
Gauge the temperature of our own organizations and the other organizations. Right. Really get kind of this collective, hive mind set of where's everybody kind of at on this, and that help influence our decisions as we, move forward as organizations.
And I felt it too as our organization, when we're working on something, a certain stance or whatever, it's good to see other organizations taking a similar stance. Yep. And so you kind of reinforces that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, that you're on the right path.
You're not all out there by yourself doing it. So,
and especially during that legislative season, man, it's tough because it gets to be a slog. And if you lose one bill or whatever, it's hard to not get down about it.
Yep.
You kind of want to go crawl in a hole and throw your hands up and go, I'm over it. I'm not doing legislation next year. Exactly. Let's just go do R3. Let's just take people hunting, and I don't care about bills anymore.
Yeah, it makes it tough
for sure.
But anything new you guys are coming up with, or anything major you want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess we talked about Icebreaker. We talked about the CWD Pint Nights. I guess the other thing that we've got, and by the time this airs, it'll kind of be old news. But with the CWD Pint Night, efforts, we partnered with Sitka Gear this year.
Yeah,
and they're a corporate partner of us, and they were opening these retail stores in the Twin Cities Metro, both at Mall of America and at the Maple Grove location, which will happen in 12 hours, basically. But they asked us, we kind of started talking about brainstorming different ideas, and this Maple Grove location could be a space where we could hold other events or storytellings and get-togethers. And I said, well, that's really cool. Can we help? Is there something? They said, well, what kind of events do you do? So it gave me a chance to kind of brag up the Minnesota work that we've done and some of the stewardship projects, and the CWD Pint Nights came up, and they said, wow, that's really cool. We'd like to help with some grant funding for that.
Nice.
And so it gave us, it leveled us up huge and really elevated our ability to spread the word about these events, get more people to the events. Because at the end of the day, we as an organization aren't big enough that we're getting in front of hundreds and thousands of people.
Right.
If a brand like that can help us spread the word and say, come on out to Grand Rapids, it's going to help us get the message out there. It's going to help, elevate their brand to know that they're giving back to conservation. And they've done an incredible job for us just stumping for BHA at the national level. But again, you've got a company that was very Western based, and they have the same problem that BHA does of like showing people that they're not just based out West. And so this was a really good opportunity to partner with a Midwest based chapter of that organization with us at BHA, and to share the good work that BHA is doing for public lands and for the deer habitat and for the wildlife outside of the West, and helping us pay for some scientific tools for that, some equipment, as well as, like I said, helping us to advertise and get the word out there about these events. It's been really, really cool. And so as we talked about, I'm going to this event here in Grand Rapids, and then tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. I'm leaving to get down to Maple Grove for a grand opening of that store, till I can talk about the efforts that we're doing with these CWD Pint Nights. And I've actually got a 3D model head of a deer.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
That was part of that. So, we're going to flip down a tailgate tonight and we're going to have a deer carcass. Well, if you're in Maple Grove or you're at the Mall of America, they won't let you bring a deer carcass in. Shocker.
Come on.
So, I know. But there is a company that makes those 3D molded heads. And so we've got a 3D molded head that, it looks like you've cut open the neck and it's flipped all back, and it's got removable lymph nodes. So we can point those lymph nodes out.
That is awesome.
I'll have it tonight at the event, and we can bring that into the store. We can bring that into the mall, and we can, again, hopefully spread this information. We can have it at a trade show in the convention center or wherever else, and show people what work we're doing outside of the public lands work, because at the end of the day, it's public lands, waters, and wildlife. And so it's these shared resources that, whether it's deer hunting or pheasant hunting or trout fishing, that we're trying to keep around and available, waters, lands, and the wildlife. And so that deer piece has been a really big part for us.
Awesome. Yeah, and we're all headed over to the event after
We
this.
are. We are. And I just want to touch on the ENRTF, the Vote Yes initiative, because we're going to be down, was that November 2nd?
November 2nd.
Yeah, down there, and we're going to do the hunt and whatever else and the big PR stuff. And Jared will be with us because he's a better speaker than we are most of the time. So that'll be great. But BHA is on board with that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So have you guys talked about it much on your podcast at all?
We did. We actually
just did an episode a couple days ago.
Yeah, and did it just air yesterday? Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm not caught up. I gotta go catch up.
That's all right. We won't hold it against you for now.
I got a long drive back to Maple Grove. I know. I'm listening to you on the way home.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, well, we had to do a quick one just because there's so much disinformation out there right now. Of
course,
we wanted to kind of address some of that, so we just got together and talked about some of that and had a good time with it.
Definitely talked about the misinformation that's out there, and
and it's tough, man. I mean, especially with as divisive as politics are right now, it's really, really going to be easy to look at a certain section of that ballot this year. That's the only chunk that a lot of people are going to vote on. But man, there's a whole lot of other stuff that please do your research. Again, this is going to come out beforehand, whether that's the city comptroller or your mayors, or, if you live in a state that's got governor elections this year, do your research, think about who's going to be the best for your rights on both sides. And I mean, I think I've talked about this on previous podcasts before, but I have trouble for us, and I think you guys probably are the same way sometimes. It's tough to be all one party or another, because incredibly tough. There's one party days that is, our pro-guns rights party, and then the other side tends to be the more environmental friendly, and focus on the lands and the waters kind of stuff a little bit better. So it's tough for us to choose sometimes, and maybe you've got your mind made up, and that's fine, but just if nothing else, consider that. And for me as an organization, I mean, we both have the ability, blessing or curse, to not be able to take a side as an organization, which for me this time of year is great. I can just say, nope, we aren't taking a side, and it's handy to be able to kind of throw up my hands on that.
Right.
But I also want to make sure that our membership is engaged. Go and vote and be a voice.
Absolutely.
Regardless of kind of where you fall on the issue. And for me, I tell people, where does BHA fall on? I try and be radically purple. There's sometimes when you can, and I don't say that meaning, passively purple. You can't just be Switzerland and say, we're not going to engage on it because we want to put our head in the sand and not take a side one way or another. but be aggressively purple and say, look, we're going to engage on this way, and we're going to engage on this way. And sometimes you're going to piss off both parties. And if you can equally piss them off, then guess what? You're probably in a good place.
Right.
You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be that 100%. Think in those 80%, think in those gray areas, because nothing any of us do is totally black and white all the time. Right. So, I guess that would be my takeaway.
Yeah. I would say with ENRTF though, I mean, you're not really voting for either party on that. You're voting for the environment.
Exactly. That is right. Yeah. And the thing is the sad part about it is if you only look, if you're not purple and you only look at one side or the other, then that's going to definitely sway you. But if you keep an open mind, and that's more or less what we do and everything, to where if you keep an open mind and listen to both sides and you really do your research, then you're going to know what
you're going to be informed.
You're going to be
just
informed.
that much better.
So then you can make
it's
that.
either going to make you go, I hadn't thought about that, and make you can reconsider maybe your stance, or it's going to at least help you strengthen your convictions to the opinion that you already had, and go, well, now I'm even more so like set towards here's what I believe.
And it's okay to second guess what you've heard.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes people say things that are just wrong, and I'm sure we have too. And so just
every time.
It's okay to second guess. Yeah, you probably should definitely second guess us, but I'm just saying.
Well, and definitely don't believe every word, certain people say all the time, just because, hey, I am this, I'm going to believe,
don't fall.
My senator, he's this, so I believe every word he says. Come on.
Yeah.
They're people too, man. At the end of the day, they're people, and you're not sure who's writing checks or what
money
influence.
talks.
Yeah, for sure. So, the ENRTF thing is just, do your research for yourself, vote for yourself. But, obviously we're both in the camp of vote yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully you guys talked about that. But the big thing I talked about on Tuesday is a non-vote is a no vote.
Right. And that's what's scary.
That's the biggest thing that I want to make sure people see tonight. And we're going to have flyers at the event tonight too, is if you're going to vote no, fine, then vote no. But the people who are thinking they're just going to blow it off and flip to the next page, by not voting, then you can't bitch about it basically later.
Pretty much.
Right. And that's what I'm afraid of, is that we'll get that, down the road. If it doesn't pass, we're going to hear down the road, like, why isn't this happening? Why isn't that happening? Or why is this happening? It's, we don't have that funding anymore.
Yep.
And then they're going to say, I wish I would have known. Why didn't you guys tell me?
We did tell you. You didn't listen. Yeah. Well, no, that's great. Well, we appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
Finally,
it's fun
that we got to do this. I think we should definitely, we can keep doing off and on, what BHA is going on, and
especially when it comes to the icebreaker. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, definitely. And right around the rendezvous time, I think that'd be really cool.
Right.
To do something like that. And hey, maybe this spring we'll make a trip down south and do some turkey hunting.
Hey.
If we,
there's
we
some
might
bidding.
Know a guy.
There's some bidding. There's some bidding.
Hot bidding going on.
Get some more money out of these guys.
Weeks. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. You can split that, and it gets a lot cheaper real fast. So.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll have me
set up to 3 guys, and they work perfect.
Yeah, we can manage something.
Yeah. Couch surf, we'll keep it cheap.
There we go.
All right. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for having me on again. I better get over to start setting things up.
Yeah, great. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see you over there shortly.
Sounds good. See you guys there.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, the voice for our wild public lands, waters, and wildlife. Join us at backcountryhunters.org.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association has been building our hunting and conservation legacy over the past 40 plus years through habitat, education, advocacy, and legislation in Minnesota for Minnesota.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association and Wolf Dot Report proudly sponsor this podcast. However, please note that the opinions, topics, and guests featured may not necessarily align with the views, beliefs, goals, or mission of our sponsors.